Welcome into Morning JOX, Tuesday morning here, 6 a.m. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell with you here. And it's a big day as it is the second week of the college football playoff rankings. We will get those tonight and expecting a lot of potential movement. Of course, Georgia probably going to fall a good bit. Miami probably going to fall a bit. How far is Alabama going to rise? Are they going to get inside that top 10? Are they going to get up to 9 like in the AP poll? Where's Ole Miss going to go to? I feel like there's a lot of different scenarios that can play out, and a lot can change over the next couple of weeks. We have 3 more weeks of the regular season. Then you have your conference championship games, and then we will have the final selections for the college football playoff. But I'm interested to see some of what the committee has to say, even though I know I'm going to be disappointed, like we are just about every single week, Damian. But maybe they'll have some good explanations for us tonight. But we'll spend plenty of time talking about the college football playoff. But we had some stuff going on around the sports world last night. You had some options, whether you wanted to watch some college basketball. I don't know, maybe you watched the NBA, or you watched Monday Night Football. So I'm watching Tua throw a touchdown pass on one of the TVs in here, Damian. So we can start with that.
I'm here for it.
Last night, as the Dolphins and the Rams faced off on Monday Night Football, and a couple of teams that I guess the Rams kind of alive in the playoffs. The Dolphins not so much, even though I know with the win last night, I guess the Dolphins are somewhat in a spot to get in the playoffs if they, kind of get hot right now. But it was good to see Tua get a win after coming back the last couple of weeks. He's played pretty well, but Dolphins as a whole have not played very well. So for them to get the win last night, it was a little sketchy. Had to have the hands team out there at the very end to kind of lock it up, as the Rams were trying to go down and tie it at the end. But hey, a win's a win.
You'll take it at this point.
Yeah, you just needed to get back in that W column.
Right, like for all the suffering that they went through with Tua being injured. I mean, you had Snoop Huntley, Skylar Thompson show that, they're not the guy. But I think that, for Miami, especially now in this point of the season, you kind of just, if you're Mike McDaniel, you're kind of just working with what you got and just seeing what could potentially land. I do think having Tua back is very valuable. But I mean, of course, for fantasy purposes, I wish Devon A-Chain would have had a little bit of a better game. But that's just a personal preference thing. But I think that the identity of the team. I mean, hell, you saw Odell Beckham Jr. get some burn. Like they have the pieces. They have a lot of speed. It's just, okay, we haven't had our starting quarterback for more than half the season, and now we're getting them back into the grind and back into the fold. So it's, okay, when do we fully let Tua just go be Tua? And I think there's kind of a learning curve. But you look at this Miami team, and offensively they're kind of just spoken for, but it's just the system at times just doesn't work all the time. And it kind of flipped that over to Los Angeles with the Rams too, with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. I think a lot of the luster is gone from that Super Bowl run, and now it's just, we've got an older quarterback, and we can't ask him to throw it almost 50 times a game and expect to win. Like, we have to balance something out. But I just think that for Miami, you're in a division with the Buffalo Bills, and that's kind of really the only team you're worried about, because New York Jets haven't done much. New England Patriots, they're the Patriots now, and you kind of find yourself in kind of no man's land. Okay, we can finish second, but if our record isn't as good as it needs to be, will we make the playoffs? Are we going to? They're in the fine line of good to average, and I think that now having Tua back kind of at least points you back towards the right direction.
Yeah, it does. I think the weirdest thing for the Dolphins, and I guess one of the bigger differences of this year compared to, really the last 2 years, I guess, is Tyreek Hill just hasn't really been much of a factor, to a certain degree. I mean, he had the touchdown last night, but he only had a couple of catches, a couple of rush attempts as well. But, I mean, you just go and look at his season, and he started off the year with 130 yards in their first game, and you're like, all right, we're back. Tyreek, the last couple of years, he's been in that conversation of, is he going to be a 2,000-yard receiver? And he hasn't gone over 100 yards since the first game of the season, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of bizarre. And I know obviously a lot of those games were played without Tua, but even with him coming back, it just, I don't know what it is, to be honest with you, if they're just trying to spread the ball around more, if he's just maybe not at 100% and he's just, not getting as much separation and maybe some of the speed's gone away or whatever it is. It's just kind of odd because that was a lot of the offense, honestly, was predicated on the fact that you had Tyreek Hill and
Yep.
he kind of opened it up for everybody else because of how dominant of a player he was. And he just kind of hasn't been the factor that you would expect um, really the entire season so far. So that part of it's kind of weird. I mean, it was cool to see OBJ back out there. I honestly at times I forget what team he's on at this point because he signed somewhere, he plays 3 games, and then he's a free agent again in the offseason. Like he just keeps changing around. But
Yeah,
I guess a little bit of a revenge game for him because he was on that Rams team that won the Super Bowl.
he was. He
He
was. He got
caught a
injured early.
touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, got injured early on, but
But yeah, I
he
mean,
has a ring.
I feel, I don't know, that's a sidebar, but I kind of feel bad for him the way that his career has gone because there was so much potential there, and it's just,
Yeah.
he's had a weird career.
It's very Zeke Elliott like. It's
Yes,
when they were on the top,
he
there
is
was
the
no
Zeke Elliott of wide receivers.
Yeah, when they were on the top, there was no question of, the conversation doesn't really get too far outside of, OBJ being one of the best receivers in the game. And then as he started to age and the injuries and then kind of just off the field, he was more of a celebrity than he was a football player. And it's okay. Now we're starting to see the wear and tear starting to get to him a little bit.
Well,
But
and I feel like he just has always gotten the benefit of the doubt of, like, I don't know. If I were to compare him to someone like DeAndre Hopkins, I feel like people have been saying for years, like, DeAndre Hopkins is kind of old and washed, and Odell Beckham just gets the benefit of, like, well, I don't know, he could be a big difference maker, and it's like he hasn't been that in a long time. But
yeah,
there's some other guys around the league that we think are getting old and washed. I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that, but. That was your Monday Night Football action last night as the Miami Dolphins took down the Los Angeles Rams 23-15 to improve to 3-6 on the season. The Rams now fall to 4-5. We also had action on the hardwood last night, and a win is a win. Credit to McNeese State as they went down to Tuscaloosa last night to take on Alabama,
mm-hmm.
and things could have gotten out of hand. It looked like they were going to get out of hand for a little bit. Then they kind of got out of hand the other way, I guess, where you're Alabama and you had a 23-point lead pretty early on in the second half, and then you go about 9.5 minutes without making a shot from the floor. That's about 25% of the entire game.
Yeah,
that you did not make a shot from the floor.
Yes,
That's concerning. Again,
it's early.
I was about to say it's early. Basketball's it's one of those things where some nights you're just off. Granted, I will say if you caught any of the Arkansas State game on Friday night, maybe that's where a little concern comes in because they didn't shoot the ball very well against Arkansas State on Friday night, had a close win there. And now you kind of turn around and had the same thing happen to McNeese where you just went cold at a certain point, and the fact that you are good enough and have enough talent to not score for about 10 minutes straight and still win a basketball game against a quality McNeese team, made the tournament last year, won 30 games. Like, say what you want about Will Wade, but dude knows basketball. So that part of it is, I guess the optimistic side. But yeah, there's not too many teams, especially with the stretch you have coming up with Purdue on Friday, or starting with Purdue on Friday. Can't be having too many of those stretches, offensively speaking. But like you said, it's early, right?
Right. And you still got a good performance from Grant Nelson, Mark Sears, Reitzel. I mean, Alabama, it's you're 3 games in. You're just working some stuff off. And like you said, they're about to hit a stretch that, okay, I highly doubt that you can go 9 minutes without making a basket against a Purdue. I mean, you look at, I think they have Creighton a little bit later, Houston, and like teams like that, I understand. But to your point, McNeese State, they made a tournament run last year. Will Wade, no matter how you slice it up, business minus basketball, He's a good coach, and he gave Nate Oates and those bunch of guys. I mean, everything that they wanted, but also there's going to be some learning curves. I don't expect them to go, miss not make a single shot for 9 minutes in January, February. Then that's a real issue. I think early on it's all right. You getting your lumps out the way. You finding the set rotations of how many guys deep are we really going to play? What's the best matchup? And sometimes just kind of you have games like this. You have games like this and listen, you're 3-0. You'd much rather have these problems to fix after a win than if McNeese State would have pulled off an upset or something last night. So we can always address those.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, and I mean from three, 11 for 32 from three. That's not. You can live with that, right? That's not going to kill you if that's what you're putting up there some nights. But I just look at, you turn the ball over 15 times. That wasn't great. And, again, you just completely stalled offensively for 9 minutes, whether it was, a combination of turnovers, shots not going in that you would expect to go in, just guys kind of not making the best decisions. But you're going to have to clean that up moving forward because, as, we were just talking about, you do play Creighton coming up. You play Purdue on Friday, but this is the next 6 games for Alabama basketball. You've got Purdue on Friday, then you take on an Illinois team that is surprisingly not ranked, but you're taking on Illinois next week. Then you have Houston, Rutgers, North Carolina, and Creighton. So 5 of your next 6 games are against top 25 teams, and Illinois is a pretty good team as well. So gonna learn a lot about this Alabama basketball team, but this is the Nate Oates way, right? Load it up early on, and
right.
Even if you lose, as we saw, last year, heck, you lost again. Pretty much all of your big non-conference games they lost last year, but it helped them when it came to tournament time and getting them in the tournament and getting a pretty decent seed. And plus, I think we saw that it paid dividends once they faced some tougher competition on their way to the Final Four.
Battle tested, brother.
That is the way. And Auburn already passing their first test against Houston the other day, so it'll be yeah. And if you missed it, the new AP poll came out yesterday. Alabama's number 2, Auburn number 5. So both teams, major teams here in the state, in the top 5. That is not something that you get to say very often ever.
Nah, and we represent the state of Alabama here, man. And I think for Auburn fans, after what has happened during football season, you'll take this one. You will rock with the with Bruce Pearl and those boys. And right now they're a top 5 team in college basketball. So.
And you got Kent State on Wednesday.
There we go. You're trending in the right direction, baby. You're trending in the right direction. Let's see what happens in basketball. But we're going to go back to football here on the other side of it because I have a question for Conrad and also you, our wonderful listeners, 205-834-9450. With all the chaos that has happened over this college football season, especially in the SEC, just right now, not asking you to project, I'm just saying right now with your own 2 eyes, who would you say is the best team in the SEC? We've seen the top dogs go down. Everybody's got a loss to somebody. But with your own 2 eyes right now, who would you say is the best team in the SEC? Expect to get some reaction there. 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls are always welcome. We'll discuss that and so much more here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. Who is this?
The Killers.
Oh. Outside of Mr. Brightside, I couldn't tell you another Killer song.
It's all right.
Yeah, I would never guessed.
Right.
Well, I hope they had a great.
They're
great,
pretty good.
Yeah, they absolutely. Mr. Brightside. I mean, you can play that at the cookout. You can play that at the party. It stretches. It's crossed over. It has. It's like Nuck If You Buck for, you know. It gets the same emotion.
Yeah, you just didn't play enough Guitar Hero growing up, but that's okay.
It's all good. I was a Madden guy. Madden NCAA. I'm an NCAA on the PlayStation 2 type. Like I remember when I had to actually go to class and stuff on my campus legend. I was trying to avoid academic probation. Just trying to play a little ball.
That's all right. We'll try to bring you along now as an adult.
Welcome back in the Morning JOX 94.5. Davey Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well. 205-834-9450. I left off with a question of who do you think is the best team in the SEC so far, just right now? Because we saw what last weekend was with Georgia falling to Ole Miss, LSU getting knocked off by Alabama having, to come back from these couple losses they've had early on in the season to Vandy and Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee lost to Arkansas. It's just when you look at the pecking order of the SEC, it's kind of a bunch of teams kind of lumped together because there's some losses that they've all had. There's some big wins that a lot of teams probably didn't think they would probably get. But with just your own two eyes and you watch every Saturday what team has kind of, stuck out the most to you, who do you think is the best team in the SEC? And I think there's kind of a collection of teams. I'll put three that I really think that, they have a strong argument for it. One would be Texas. I think Texas, when you watch, whether Quinn Ewers is in, Arch Manning is in, they're out there. They're still executing at a high level, the way Sark has that offense rolling. And now, if you watch the Florida game, defensively, they were getting after it as well. Number two, for me, I would probably say Tennessee. I think Tennessee is this is the most defensively complete team Josh Heupel's had since he's been the head coach at Tennessee. It's just the offense, it's taken a little bit of an identity change because now they're actually running the football at a high level and it's not asking Nico to go out there and throw it, a million times a game like he had Hendon Hooker. So I would probably have Tennessee as number two. Number three right now, because of, again, it could be because of the last two games that I've really seen them play. But they're figuring it all out. I got Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss would be number three right now because I do think what Jackson Dart has been able to do these past couple games against Arkansas and Georgia is really take control of the offense that he knows. And he's been playing for Lane Kiffin all these years, and now it's just finally putting it all together because defensively what Pete Golden has been able to do with those guys, they were the more physical team against Georgia. And I never thought that I would utter that phrase ever with a Lane Kiffin-led team. But they were more physical than the Kirby Smart-led Georgia Bulldogs. And that really kind of just took me back of, okay, this Ole Miss team, yeah, they might sleptwalk against Kentucky. But I think collectively, what they've been able to do since, LSU really came down to the last play of the ball game. And you got beat in overtime, which it shouldn't have been in overtime anyway. You had multiple chances to get that game over with. But I think what you're seeing is they're probably the most complete team right now when all things are going in the right direction because defensively they're doing a great job. I would have a conversation with Texas A&M. Alabama is worth considering too, but I think I just got to see a little bit more of what they did against LSU. If this is going to be the identity from them moving forward, I think yes, they're definitely going to be in a conversation of being the best team in the SEC. I'm hesitant to say it right now because again, they did match up with Tennessee and Tennessee knocked them off. So that does play a part into it. But I said probably the three best teams right now and kind of any given date you can have an argument or discussion with them. I got Texas, Tennessee, and Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think, it's just hard because I think you can make a really good case for and against all of really the top 4 or 5 teams in the SEC. Because with Texas, I think Texas has probably all around, I think they have the best roster in terms of I think they have the fewest weaknesses that you can exploit, and they're just all around very, very solid. However, they haven't beaten anybody,
Right.
right? And the only time I saw you play anybody worth a darn, you got, I mean, belt to ass. Like, it was embarrassing at home.
Yep.
And so that's my problem with Texas is I want to say it's them, but I need to see them play another team and dominate them similarly to how Georgia did to them. And I'll be honest, even if, they go and handle business against A&M at the end of the year, I'm not going to be convinced that, oh, okay, now Texas is, oh, okay,
Right.
now they're ready to go and win the national championship because again, like we have as many questions as we do about some of these teams that I know Georgia right now is, not looking the best, but again, it's like it's hard to go back and not remember what I saw them do to Texas a few weeks ago in Austin. So, I would probably go Texas just based on the fact that they still only have the one loss. But I think you can make a strong argument against it. Tennessee, I think would be right up there as well. And a lot of that's with the defense and the running game, like you were talking about. I'm still not sold on Nico, and that's really the thing holding me back.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Tennessee, man. Is it's like it just feels like if he was 5% better or 10% better, Tennessee would be probably the best team in all of college football. Like that's where they're at for me. Is if he was more accurate and he just hit on those passes that are there for him and they're there to be hit,
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee would be the best team in the SEC in my opinion, but they're still not there. And but again, they only have one loss, so you have to give them credit. And then I guess if it comes down to Alabama and Ole Miss, like I mean, yeah, as the Alabama fan, yeah, I'll take Alabama over anybody right now with the way they're playing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think anybody wants to play Alabama right now. I don't think anybody wants to play Ole Miss right now with the way that they've been playing. But I would probably give still a lean to Alabama just because I really like Ole Miss. It was great what they were able to do against Georgia, but again, as great as that moment was, now it's all right. Can you do it again? Right? Can you win another big game? All right. Now, if you get in the playoff, are you going to be able to go in there and make some noise, or was this kind of your one big moment? And I just think if Jalen Milroe plays like he did against LSU, moving forward, he's probably the best player in college football. So I would give Alabama a slight lean there, but I think Ole Miss has been really, really impressive. I think you could make an argument, honestly, that right now, Alabama and Ole Miss have been playing the best the last 3 weeks, just based on what you've seen from them the last two games. But, recency bias can, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of where I was hitting at as far as, man, these last 2 weeks kind of have thrown everything that I've learned about these teams in kind of a loop because I mean, after what Georgia did to Texas, I was kind of just sold that they're not gonna lose another game if they play like
Yeah,
this.
I thought that was it for them. They're going to
Yeah,
go win the national championship. And
right. Because they showed up and they handled their business. But then you kind of go back and okay, did we overlook some of the flaws they had against Kentucky? Did we take too much stock in the second half or the first half against Alabama? But no, this is just a flawed Georgia team. They're not as physical as they have been. They're missing out on some of just the absolute freaks that they've had in the past couple seasons. And Ole Miss kind of exposed that. And again, I never thought that we would be sitting here on the 12th of November saying that a Lane Kiffin led team was more physical than a Kirby Smart led Georgia unit. Never once did I think that was going to be a conversation. You saw it Saturday. And I think that's what's kind of taking me back of, this Georgia team may actually, are they fighting just to get 9 wins? Because again, Tennessee this weekend, if and I agree with you on Nico, it's man, if Hendon Hooker was there at quarterback, I would throw every bit of money I have in my pocket on Tennessee right now.
mm-hmm.
Because defensively, this is the best they've ever looked. This is the best they've ever looked under Josh Heupel. And then with Carson Beck playing the way that he has the past couple seasons, I think Tennessee could really mess this thing up.
But see, my thing with Tennessee is they haven't looked very. I don't want to say they haven't looked very good. They haven't had like all the other teams. You look at what Ole Miss just did to Georgia, what Alabama did to LSU, what Texas did to Michigan earlier in the year, even though I know that win doesn't look great right now. But you look at that, Tennessee doesn't have one of those wins.
Right. They
And
don't have a
that's
signature win.
exactly. And the win over Alabama was good, but again, the people that watched it, you go back and you're like, that was just a really disgusting game on either side. And it's great that Tennessee won that game, but you weren't. I don't think people walked away from that game going, man, I was really impressed by Tennessee. It was,
Right.
man, Alabama was really bad and Tennessee took advantage of it.
Yeah. They haven't just taken a game. And the one game they kind of had, looking back on it now, what Arkansas did to Oklahoma, what Ole Miss did to Arkansas, and what Tennessee did to Arkansas on the road. This is not the same team that I thought that we saw.
And even that Oklahoma game, you go back and at the beginning, it was like, oh, okay, it was a good double-digit win on the road against Oklahoma. That's impressive. And now it's like, oh, okay, maybe that should have looked a little different than it did.
Man, it's just interesting to see where we are now in the SEC, because we kind of had these reservations in 2024 of, oh yeah, we know like Georgia's going to be there, Alabama's going to be there, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Missouri, even in the conversation. And now that the season's gone on, Vanderbilt has thrown a wrench into a lot of these things, because we can't judge a lot of teams by what they did against Vanderbilt, because some of them have lost to Vanderbilt. And it's okay. Well, now we shift our focus and shift our thinking of, man, are all of these teams, there's not necessarily an eye test just pecking order for these units, because you've seen good ball, you've seen bad ball from all these teams. But the month of November, you start to figure it all out, because at that point, there's no more questioning of, oh, what is this team now? This is who you are. This is how you're rolling. And hopefully you're playing better football in the month of November. And I mean, there's a clip last year where Brian Kelly's like, October's for pretenders.
I was about to bring that up.
November's for contenders. And well, you lost the first weekend in November that you had, and you hate to see it.
A couple years in a row now.
Yeah, it's kind of a recurring thing. So I think the SEC, man, it's really up for grabs these next couple weeks, man. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, and I mean, I think right now there's a clear four. I think the four teams that we talked about with Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss, I think right now, clearly that is in my opinion, those are the four teams that would be, if the season ended today, should go to the college football playoff. And I think that, you look at Georgia, and as rough of a spot as they're in right now, well, all they get to do is play Tennessee this weekend, and that could completely shake things up, right? Because then, we get the fun conversation of, well, how do you decipher, 10-2 Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Ole Miss when they've all beat each other in some capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be just, I mean, at this point, with how much chaos and how weird things have been, I fully expect that to happen, simply because they want to make things as chaotic as possible. That's just kind of how the football gods seem to be going this year. But I mean, you have realistically 6 teams that could make the college football playoff, and I think you're only going to get 4 of them in. So we're going to have a couple fan bases that are not particularly happy, and I think we're going to find a lot in that department. Find out a lot about that tonight, when I think the big question tonight in the playoff rankings is Georgia behind Alabama and Ole Miss? Because I know it sounds obvious. Well, yeah, they lost to both of them, so they would be ranked behind them. But they would have to drop Georgia probably from number 3 all the way down to number 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying they won't do it, but that's a big drop for a team after 1 week. And I think that'll tell you a lot about how the committee views Ole Miss and that Kentucky loss. Is that something they're going to hold against them?
Right.
How much do they view Alabama's win over LSU, or did they kind of not look at LSU as favorably now, and it doesn't help them as much as we thought it would? There's a lot of interesting pieces to that, but buckle up, because somebody's not going to be happy tonight.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Miami just lost this weekend too to Georgia Tech. How far
will probably fall out as well?
How far of a drop they're going to go? SMU, you kind of say, hey, okay, thank you. We will take this.
Well, I was about to say right now, they're like, hey, we got a spot in the title game, Miami. You might have to watch out. So
exactly. I'm telling you, man, the college football playoff this Tuesday, especially after what happened this past weekend, should be very intriguing. We want to get your reaction on the other side. 205-834-9450. See your text messages, your calls on who is the best team in the SEC right now. Got some interesting discussions going on here. We'll continue on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. Who is this?
Boston. Not a fan?
Not feeling that one.
Really?
Not feeling that one, cuz.
You don't like this? I mean,
Kinda
to
trash.
each their... What?
Like this song, like it's just
To each their own.
no, I don't know if I can get into I don't know if that's gonna come on the aux cord and be like, "Hey, man, turn that up."
Oh man, Boston's good.
Yeah, they probably are. It's just maybe not the song, but what's like their? Is this like their most popular? Was that their most popular hit?
It's one of them.
What's like one of their
More Than a Feeling. I'll just tell you right now, if you didn't like that song, I don't think you're gonna like their other songs.
Hey, it's just not my cup of tea.
That's fine.
It's all good.
It's okay. You would rather listen to Florida Georgia Line. We understand.
Absolutely. You've been listening to Glorilla lately?
No.
Interesting.
I've been listening to Boston.
That's a Yankees fan? I think y'all rock with them like that.
We can make exceptions. It's not that deep. They make good music, so.
Absolutely. Welcome back into Morning JOX. JOX 94.5, Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well. 205-834-9450. The question is, who is the best team right now, just up till now, with your own two eyes, who you think is the best team in the SEC to this point? And we getting your reaction here on the JOX text line. Let's see. We got some Texas. Somebody said it's got to be Texas up till now. Somebody asked a question. Fanboy, he says, are you afraid that Bama might end up in the SEC championship game by default and it might hurt them? I'm going to tell you this. If Alabama continues to win, I don't think that Atlanta's become their second home. It don't matter who you got on the other side of it. I think that it's not going to hurt them by going to the SEC title game.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand the point of, the scenario here is Alabama goes 10-2, they make it to the SEC championship game and lose, and then at 10-3, do you fall out of the playoff? And I think, to be completely honest, I think we don't know how that's going to be treated. I mean, the committee even came out and said, we haven't. They acknowledged, because Reese Davis asked the question, if you go to your conference title game and lose, is that something that's going to impact you? And essentially the response was they don't want to punish teams for playing an extra game, but also how you perform in that game could determine what happens. So, for example, let's say Alabama goes to the SEC title game and plays Texas, and Texas beats them 42-10. They get blown out. Well, in that case, it probably does hurt you, and you're probably going to tumble a few spots in the rankings. But if you go and lose to Texas by a touchdown, I don't think that's necessarily going to be held against you. I do think, I think the train of thought is more, do you go try to win the conference championship because that means something, and then you would get the bye in the first round of the playoffs as one of the top 4 seeds, or do you take the bye SEC championship game week by not playing in that game if it were to happen that way? And to be honest, first off, there are so many weird criteria and factors and things that go into the tiebreakers. If Georgia doesn't beat Tennessee this weekend, I think Alabama getting to Atlanta is essentially, that's just probably not going to happen.
Right.
So that's kind of the first big step there. And I know a lot of it also depends on Missouri because of one of the tiebreakers about common opponents and what their record is in conference. And so if Missouri keeps winning, that helps Alabama.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I guess, I would lean more toward the sides that no, it will not affect you as long as you don't go and get embarrassed. If you go and get embarrassed, well, that's kind of on you.
Yeah. I mean, I've only seen Alabama lose, twice in Atlanta. And that rarely happens. So that's why I say it's just Tuscaloosa. Yeah. It's just West Tuscaloosa at this point. East Tuscaloosa, my fault.
Well, and I think, and I mean, to be fair, this is how it is as a fan. 2 weeks ago, I was definitely in the boat of, well, probably just don't go to Atlanta and just take the bye, get healthy, and then, see where the cards fall in the first round of the playoff. But if they keep playing the way they have the past couple of weeks, I'd be like, yeah, let's go to Atlanta and win the thing.
Yeah. That's what cures everything. Winning. Just continue to win.
Anyway, yeah, gotta stay healthy though.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like if Alabama plays like they did last weekend, and I don't care who's in front of them, there ain't nobody trying to see that all November long. And even in the playoff settings, that's gonna be difficult.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't mean that that's the Alabama we're gonna get the rest of the way, but we've now, you've gotten some consistency out of it, and it's you got to be playing the best ball at the right time of the year.
Exactly. We've got somebody texting in that Ole Miss right now will be the best team in the SEC. It's
I
fair.
think based on the last 2 weeks, you could certainly say that.
Mm-hmm. Uh Somebody says too bad Tennessee is going to lose to Georgia this weekend. Hey, wouldn't be the first time.
Well, according to Heupel, Nico was all good to go yesterday. So
That's all I needed to hear. Somebody says Georgia isn't losing two games in a row. Have you not watched Georgia play football? And again, like think about it. Think about what just happened.
what? How many things this season could you have said that's never going to happen in a million years, and it happened?
I'm telling you, man. I think it's gonna be a great ball game in Athens this weekend between Tennessee and Georgia. Especially again, Carson Beck. If he continues to play like he has, every team on Georgia's schedule has a chance.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps turning the ball over, that's just a recipe for disaster for them. But now it's all right, we've gotten to see Alabama. How do you respond with your back against the wall? 2 losses, pretty much every game here on out's a playoff elimination game for you. And we've seen them respond. Now, How is Georgia? Are you going to respond the same way, or are you going to continue to have, let the same issues crop up? And if that's the case, then yeah, Tennessee's probably going to have a field day.
Yeah, we know one team that's not in this consideration of being the best team in the SEC. It's the the team this guy cheers for. War damn Don Don. What's going on, Don Don?
No, that's right, Damien. You're right, buddy.
But if you hand the ball to if you would have handed the ball to Jarquez Hunter about 20 times, the beginning of the season, we probably would have a different discussion. But
but on your topic of question, that's a very good question, and I agree with the 3 teams that you called out of Texas, Tennessee, and I believe you said Ole Miss, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Right now, if you look at the last 2 weeks, I got to agree with what y'all just said about Ole Miss being, because if their defense keeps on playing like that, my goodness.
Pete Golden led defense.
That's right. Yeah. You hit the help. Conrad, what do you think about Todd Golden actually turning into a good defensive coach?
I am glad that it was a mutually beneficial parting of ways. I'm glad that it worked out for him.
Well,
Only cost him about $10 million to bolster that defense, and look what happens.
Yeah, and by the way, man, I'm sorry to hear about your kid being out for the season. What is his name? Q Robinson.
Oh yeah, that one. That one is unfortunate, but it's Alabama. As I talked about it last week, they've been pretty fortunate injury wise this year, but that one definitely hurts.
Okay, and also too, by the way, you remember the conversation that I had with you, Conrad, when y'all got Aiden Holloway on basketball?
Yes, I think last night we saw some of the reasons that Auburn fans were frustrated with him last year at times.
He is the most inconsistent guard I've ever seen. Now he can still light it up for you. Now don't say that he can't. And by the way, when you said something about the schedule, so y'all got to go to Purdue again.
I believe that game is where is that game being played? If I'm not mistaken, is Illinois the one that they're playing here?
Right.
Yeah, you need to go to that. I'm going to that with my Alabama buddy.
Yeah, I'm Paige and I are trying to see if we're going to be able to go to that one. Yeah, Purdue is. It's not in Canada. No, it's at Purdue because they played in Canada last year when they played Purdue, but they're they're playing at Purdue on Friday.
Okay, but Alabama and Auburn both have good schedules because we go to the Maui Classic here in a couple of weeks, and we got to. In the ACC SEC Challenge, y'all go to North Carolina.
Yeah, y'all got Duke.
We go to Duke, and we still got and that Maui Classic. I was just looking at the field. I mean, you got UConn, Michigan State. We play Iowa State in our first round game, and if we win, we're probably going to have to play UConn and Michigan State. So yeah, basketball is going to be fun. I was trying to think when Damien brought it up about both of us being in the top 5. I don't think that's ever happened where both of us were in it together.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think of that too, and I can't remember it being that case, at least certainly not in my lifetime. But it's just a testament to, I mean, how good these teams have been over the last few years that we still haven't had that, and this is, the first time in at least a few decades, I would think.
Well, anyway, fellas, I always enjoy talking to you. Happy Taco Tuesday, and hope to see you guys in a few hours.
Yeah, and then we got some text messages coming in as well. Texas A&M has entered the chat. If I hadn't seen South Carolina, if I hadn't seen the South Carolina game, I could make
2 weeks ago we could have had that conversation.
Right. And now it's kinda Marcel Reed is still a freshman. He's still kind of ironing some things out. Now, talent, he's definitely there.
I was about to say, offensively, they're just too inconsistent for me to say that they're the best team. But again, you still have, I mean, the game against Texas can prove a lot of people wrong, and that can, that could do a lot of wonders for you if you're Texas A&M, not only in the sense of getting you to Atlanta for the first time, but I think giving people some confidence that, because the LSU win is good, but I think, again, watching what Alabama did to them, it's like, okay, LSU, maybe they're just kind of withering away here as the season moves along. And again, like you had an opportunity against South Carolina and, but to be fair, I think how we're talking about Alabama and Ole Miss and some of those teams right now where you don't want to play them right now, South Carolina's in that same conversation.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a chance that they go 9-3. Like they could, if they finish the right way.
Didn't have that on the bingo card this year.
No.
Did not have that one. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. Got some more text messages to read over as far as who is the best team in the SEC right now. We'll keep it going on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. I know who this is. Late to think you might out of time. Man, hurry up tomorrow. God, he's hurry up. He really needs to hurry up and drop him now. I mean, the year is starting to dwindle on down. I need to slip back into the darkness just for a little bit. Because if he has anything like he did when he dropped After Hours, well, we're going to have a good time. Talking about the weekend, y'all. Definitely dive into his music. Party Monster. If there's a particular song you need to listen to Party Monster. That's my Bruce Wayne.
Something tells me we have more of a Boston crowd.
You ain't lying. Welcome back in the Morning JOX. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order here with you for a few more moments as we get you set for Mac and Cube in the morning. Somebody texted in. He says, fair assessment on my Ags. Offense, especially without one of the best backs in the country, and Le'Veon Moss is a blow. Yeah, that does hurt. That does hurt. Somebody saying, somebody calling it now. Tennessee beats Georgia and loses to Vandy, and Texas A&M beats Texas. LSU beats Texas A&M in the SEC championships and gets the auto bid. Maximum chaos.
See, and that's where things just get all out of whack for me when it's, head-to-head matters, but there's still a scenario where LSU gets to the title game over Alabama, even though Alabama has the head-to-head win, but they have the same conference. It's bizarre. I'm glad that they have like 7 different layers to that tiebreaker because they're going to have to use every single one of them this year.
Just get to the random draw. I just want the random draw.
I will say we were pretty critical of the SEC of, man, it's like a week before kickoff and you don't have a tiebreaker. Okay, maybe now I kind of understand why it took them a while to figure it out, and I still don't understand it, but I'm glad somebody out there does.
Hey,
it's not my job.
Gavin texts in, he says, I don't know if Ole Miss is the best team, but they're probably the most talented. That I do agree with. Who knows, man?
Probably have the most upside right now.
Absolutely. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Those guys are next.